The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestones as tourists gathered near the ceremonial gates. Among them moved a woman with a smartphone held high, her eyes darting between the screen and her surroundings with predatory focus. Marina Valdez had built an empire on manufactured outrage, each video more provocative than the last, each controversy carefully calculated to drive her follower count higher. Today, she had chosen a new target. Marcus Sullivan had served at his post for 9 years, 3 months and 17 days. His uniform was immaculate, his posture perfect, his gaze fixed on some distant point beyond the crowd. He had learned long ago that stillness was its own kind of strength, that discipline meant more than reaction, that dignity could be worn as armor against the chaos of the world. Marina approached with her camera already streaming live. Thousands of viewers watched as she positioned herself directly in front of him, angling the phone to capture both their faces. Her voice dripped with manufactured sweetness that barely concealed the venom beneath. "Good morning to my amazing followers," she purred into the camera. "Today we're here at the ceremonial complex to have a little chat with one of these so-called guardians. Let's see if they're worth the taxpayer money they consume, shall we?" She turned her attention to Marcus, her expression shifting instantly to mockery. "Tell me, statue man, do you actually do anything useful? Or do you just stand here looking pretty in your costume?" Marcus's eyes remained fixed ahead. His breathing was steady, controlled. He had endured rain, snow, summer heat that made sweat run down his spine beneath the heavy uniform. A woman with a camera was nothing compared to the challenges he had already mastered. But Marina Valdez had not built her following by accepting silence. She circled him slowly, her phone capturing every angle, her commentary growing sharper with each passing second. "Look at this, everyone. This is what they call discipline. I call it being a trained puppet. Dance for me, puppet. Show us what you can do." A few tourists laughed nervously, others shifted uncomfortably, sensing that something was crossing from entertainment into cruelty. An elderly couple exchanged glances and quietly moved away, wanting no part in whatever was unfolding. Marina's voice grew louder, more insistent. "What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? Or maybe you just don't have anything worth saying. Maybe you're exactly what you look like, nothing more than decoration in a fancy jacket." She moved closer, her face now inches from his. Marcus could smell her perfume, could see the way her pupils dilated as she fed on the attention her stream was generating. Comments scrolled across her screen, a mixture of encouragement and concern. "Do you even understand what I'm saying?" she sneered. "Or do they not teach you language skills in guard school? They just teach you to stand still and look intimidating, right? Though honestly, you're not very intimidating, more like pathetic." The words washed over Marcus like rain. He had heard worse during his training, had endured instructors who screamed in his face, had survived situations where maintaining composure meant the difference between life and death. This woman with her smartphone and her desperate hunger for validation was nothing he couldn't handle, but Marina Valdez was just getting started. She began to address her viewers directly, gesturing at Marcus as if he were an exhibit in a museum. "You see this? This is what they call service, standing around like a mannequin while real people work real jobs. And look at that face, so serious, so stern. I bet he thinks he's really important." A young boy tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mama, why is that lady being so mean to him?" His mother shushed him quietly, pulling him back away from the scene. But the child's question hung in the air, unspoken by others, but felt by many. Marina's stream was exploding with comments now. Some cheered her on, hungry for the drama. Others began to criticize, calling her behavior inappropriate, asking her to stop. She glanced at the negative comments and her jaw tightened. She had come too far to back down now. "Oh, some of you think I'm being too harsh," she said to her phone. You think I should respect this guard dog in his fancy costume? Let me show you exactly what he's worth." She reached out and jabbed her finger into Marcus's chest. Once, twice, 3 times. Each poke was punctuated with another insult. Nothing. Just decoration. Marcus's jaw tightened imperceptibly. His commanding officer had taught him that every person they encountered was a test, that maintaining composure was the highest form of strength. He thought of his grandmother, who had raised him with quiet dignity after his parents died. He thought of her words that discipline was not about suppressing emotion, but about choosing which emotions deserved expression. Marina Valdez was not worth breaking his discipline, but she was determined to break him anyway. "Come on, say something," she taunted. "Defend yourself, or are you too stupid? Maybe that's why they put you here, because you're not smart enough for a real job. Just smart enough to stand still and let people take pictures with you like you're some kind of tourist attraction." The crowd had grown larger now. Some held their own phones, recording the spectacle. Others watched with growing discomfort, unsure whether to intervene or simply walk away. The weight of their attention pressed down on the scene like a physical thing. Marina's frustration was building. She had expected a reaction by now, some crack in the facade that she could exploit, some moment of weakness that would justify her actions to her viewers. But Marcus gave her nothing, and that absence of reaction was driving her to escalate. She flicked at the medals on his chest, making them jingle. "Participation trophies, I bet. They probably give these out to everyone just for showing up. Do you even know what they're for? Or did they just pin them on you and tell you to look pretty?" One of the other guards, standing further down the line, shifted almost imperceptibly. Marcus could sense the tension radiating from his colleagues, could feel their readiness to intervene if things went too far. But protocol was clear. They did not break formation. They did not react to provocation. They represented something larger than themselves. Marina's hand shot out and grabbed Marcus's collar, yanking it toward her. "Look at me when I'm talking to you, you arrogant piece of—" She didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she pulled her hand back and slapped him across the face. The crack of flesh against flesh echoed across the courtyard like a gunshot. The crowd gasped collectively. Several people shouted in protest. A woman covered her mouth in shock. The young boy who had questioned his mother earlier began to cry. Marcus's head had turned slightly from the force of the blow. A red mark bloomed on his cheek. But he did not raise a hand to touch it, did not blink, did not give Marina Valdez the satisfaction of seeing him hurt. Slowly, deliberately, he turned his head back to face forward. His eyes found that distant point again. His breathing remained steady. The silence that followed was deafening. Marina stared at him, her hand still raised, her chest heaving. Her live stream had erupted into chaos, thousands of comments flooding in per second, the majority now condemning her actions. But she was too far gone to stop, too invested in her narrative to back down. "See," she said into her camera, her voice shaking slightly, "see how they train these people. He's not even human anymore. He's just a robot in a uniform. This is what your tax dollars pay for, people. This is what your government considers protection." She reached up and knocked his cap off his head. The ceremonial headpiece tumbled through the air and clattered on the cobblestones, rolling to a stop several feet away. If the slap had been a violation, this was something worse. The cap represented more than just part of a uniform. It was a symbol of honor, of service, of sacrifice. Every guard knew the stories of those who had worn it before them, the history that was woven into every thread. The guards down the line stiffened visibly. One took a half step forward before catching himself. The tension was palpable now, electric, dangerous. But Marcus still did not move. Marina laughed, a high, nervous sound that betrayed her growing uncertainty. "Look at that, he won't even pick up his own hat. What kind of soldier can't even—" "That's enough." The voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Commander Hayes strode forward, her uniform crisp, her expression carved from stone. She had been watching from the command post, had given Marcus every opportunity to handle the situation himself. But a line had been crossed that could not be ignored. Marina spun around, her phone still streaming, her confidence faltering, but not yet broken. "Oh, here comes the cavalry." "What? Is your toy soldier not allowed to speak? Does he need someone to fight his battles for him?" Commander Hayes stopped 3 feet away, her posture relaxed but ready. She had served for 23 years, had seen combat, had led troops through situations that made this confrontation look like child's play. Her voice was calm, measured, and absolutely devoid of mercy. "You need to leave now. You've assaulted a member of the guard and disturbed the peace. Those are criminal offenses. You will come with me quietly, or you will be removed by force. Your choice." Marina's laugh was sharp and brittle. "Criminal offenses? Are you kidding me? I barely touched him. And disturbing the peace? I'm a content creator. I have millions of followers. This is freedom of expression. This is my right. Your rights end where his begin," Commander Hayes replied. "You've crossed that line multiple times. Last chance. Come with me now." For a moment, it seemed like Marina might comply. Her phone wavered. Her eyes darted to the crowd, to the other guards, to the scattered comments on her screen telling her to run, to apologize, to stop before it was too late. Instead, she shoved Commander Hayes. It was a two-handed push, forceful, meant to create distance or provoke a reaction. It was also the biggest mistake of Marina Valdez's life. The courtyard erupted in chaos. Tourists screamed, guards broke formation, moving with practiced precision toward the disturbance. The young boy's mother pulled him away, shielding his eyes. Other phones appeared, dozens of them, capturing every angle of what was unfolding. And Marcus Sullivan finally moved. His first step was measured, controlled, the movement of someone who had trained for thousands of hours. His boots struck the cobblestones with authority. The second step came faster. By the third, he had closed half the distance to where Marina stood frozen, her hands still outstretched from her push, her face cycling through shock and fear and defiant rage. "What are you gonna do?" she screamed at him, her voice cracking. "Huh? What are you gonna do, you mindless—" She swung at him, a wild, desperate punch aimed at his face. Marcus deflected it almost casually, redirecting her momentum with a minimal movement of his forearm. She stumbled, regained her balance and swung again, this time aiming for his midsection. He sidestepped, caught her wrist, and twisted it into a control hold that his instructors had taught him years ago. She shrieked in pain and surprise as he rotated her arm, spun her around and brought her smoothly to the ground. His knee pressed against her back, his hands securing her wrists behind her, his movements so precise and practiced that the entire sequence took less than 5 seconds. Her phone skittered across the cobblestones, its camera still active, still streaming the moment of her complete humiliation to hundreds of thousands of watching eyes. The crowd erupted in applause. Commander Hayes was already there with restraints, snapping them around Marina's wrists with professional efficiency. "Marina Valdez, you are under arrest for assault on 2 members of the ceremonial guard and for disturbing the peace. You have the right to remain silent." "I'm famous," Marina shrieked, her face pressed against the stone. "I have rights. I have followers. You can't do this to me." "Your followers are watching you get arrested," Commander Hayes said calmly, "and your rights are being read to you right now. I suggest you exercise your right to remain silent." 2 more guards arrived to assist, lifting Marina to her feet. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared, her expensive outfit scuffed from the cobblestones. She looked nothing like the confident influencer who had arrived that morning. Marcus stood slowly, brushing off his uniform with calm, deliberate movements. He walked to where his cap lay on the ground, bent down, and picked it up with both hands. He examined it for damage, found none, and carefully brushed it clean before placing it back on his head. The gesture was simple, quiet, dignified. The crowd fell silent watching him, recognizing something profound in that moment of care, in that refusal to let violence and cruelty diminish the symbols of honor and service. As Marina was led away, still screaming about her rights and her followers, a small figure detached from the crowd. The young boy who had questioned his mother earlier approached Marcus hesitantly, clutching a piece of paper in his small hands. His mother started to pull him back, but Marcus, still unable to speak while on duty, gave her a small nod. The woman relaxed, understanding the silent permission. The boy held up his drawing. It had been made with crayons, showing a figure in a guard's uniform surrounded by hearts and stars. The proportions were childish, the execution clumsy, but the love and admiration in every line were unmistakable. "Thank you, Mr. Guard," the boy whispered. "You were brave." Marcus looked down at the child, at the drawing, at the pure and uncomplicated admiration in those young eyes. He couldn't respond with words, bound by the same protocol that had kept him silent through Marina's abuse. But his eyes softened, and he gave the smallest nod of acknowledgement. The boy beamed and ran back to his mother, clutching his drawing, already telling her excitedly about how the guard had looked at him, had really seen him. Commander Hayes approached Marcus, her expression unreadable. "Your relief will be here in 10 minutes, then report to my office." He nodded once, crisp and professional, and resumed his position. His face forward, his posture perfect, his gaze fixed on that distant point that only he could see. The crowd slowly dispersed, but many lingered, taking photos not to mock, but to remember. Some left flowers near his post, others simply stood and watched, as if bearing witness to something important, something that mattered in a world that too often celebrated cruelty and mocked dignity. In Commander Hayes's office later that day, after his shift had ended and he could finally speak freely, Marcus sat across from his commanding officer while she reviewed the incident reports and video footage. "You maintained your composure perfectly," she said finally. "Even when protocol would have allowed you to respond earlier, that takes remarkable discipline." "That's the job," Marcus replied quietly. "That's more than the job," Hayes corrected. "That's character. The way you handled her when you finally had to act was textbook perfect. No excessive force, no loss of control, just professional restraint and neutralization. Your training instructors would be proud." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "You know this is going to be everywhere. Her live stream, the witness videos, all of it. You're about to become very famous." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't do it for fame." "I know. That's exactly why you deserve recognition. You represented everything we stand for today. Discipline, dignity, restraint, and when necessary, decisive action. That's the full spectrum of what a guard should be." Over the following days, the video spread across every platform. Marina Valdez's livestream had captured everything, including the comment section turning against her in real time. News organizations picked up the story. Editorial writers penned columns about dignity in the face of provocation. Social media exploded with hashtags supporting Marcus and condemning Marina. Marina herself faced charges that could result in significant fines and potential jail time. Her follow account, ironically, increased dramatically, but her ability to monetize that following evaporated as platforms suspended her accounts for violating terms of service regarding harassment and assault. Marcus Sullivan returned to his post the next day and the day after that. Tourists who came to the ceremonial grounds treated him and his fellow guards with noticeably more respect. Parents explained to their children what he represented. Some people traveled specifically to see him, to thank him, to tell him that his example had meant something to them. He accepted their gratitude with the same quiet dignity he had shown in facing Marina's abuse, because that was who he was, who he had trained to be, who he chose to be even when it would have been easier to break, to react, to let anger and hurt dictate his actions. Standing at his post one crisp morning 2 weeks later, Marcus noticed a familiar small figure approaching. The boy from before, clutching another drawing, his mother walking beside him with an apologetic smile. The boy held up his new artwork. This one showed Marcus standing tall, while hearts and flowers surrounded him, and words in careful, childish letters read, "Thank you for being good." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest, felt the weight of what he represented not just to this child, but to everyone who looked to him and his fellow guards as symbols of something worth preserving in a cynical world. When his shift ended and he could finally move, finally speak, he found the boy waiting nearby with his mother. He knelt down to the child's level, accepted the drawing with both hands, and said simply, "Thank you. This means everything." The boy hugged him impulsively, and Marcus, in his formal uniform with all its protocols and restrictions, hugged him back. Because dignity is not about being inhuman. Discipline is not about suppressing emotion. Honor is not about standing alone. They are about knowing what matters, protecting what is precious, and choosing every day to be better than the worst the world can throw at you. Marcus Sullivan stood for something. And in standing, in refusing to break, in maintaining his dignity when someone tried to strip it away, he reminded everyone watching that strength comes in many forms, that silence can be its own kind of power, and that the measure of a person is not in how they react to kindness, but in how they respond to cruelty. The ceremonial gates gleamed in the sun. Marcus returned to his post. And the world moved on, slightly better than it had been before, because one person chose dignity over retaliation, discipline over rage, and honor over easy revenge.